In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Aeros mode that comes included with your MIDI Maestro with our Aeros Loop Studio and all the advantages that it gives you. Let's get started. Before we get started, I'd like to explain how all of this is set up. We've got the MIDI Maestro, BeatBuddy, and Aeros all working together as a tightly integrated system. I've got this controller right here, which is hooked into an iPad, which is producing the sound, and the audio outputs of the iPad is hooked into the audio inputs on the Aeros, so the Aeros is recording that. The audio outputs of the Aeros is hooked into the audio inputs on the BeatBuddy, and the BeatBuddy is combining the audio from the Aeros and the beats that it is generating and putting all that into the headphones jack right here, which is a nice convenient thing so you can combine all your sound channels into one. If I was using an electric guitar, I would keep those audio channels separate because you'd want to have your electric guitar into an electric guitar amp and the BeatBuddy into a full range speaker so that the drums sound good and the electric guitar sounds good as well. We have a more detailed video about audio routing, and that we're going to leave a link in the description below, so check that out for more information on that. The next thing that I would like to discuss is the way it's all hooked up together as far as control goes. All three units use MIDI to control each other, and I've got the MIDI output of the MIDI Maestro connected to the MIDI input on the BeatBuddy, and the MIDI output on the BeatBuddy connected to the MIDI input on the Aeros. So the MIDI Maestro is controlling the BeatBuddy and the Aeros, and the BeatBuddy is controlling the Aeros as well. One very important thing if you are using all three units together is to have the settings on the BeatBuddy. If you go to main pedal and then to MIDI settings, MIDI out, and output type, make sure that it is set to merge, because the merge setting is going to take the MIDI commands from the MIDI Maestro, combine them with the MIDI commands that the BeatBuddy itself generates, and put them both out to the Aeros. To choose a mode on the MIDI Maestro, you just press the mode button on the back, and you see three options. Custom mode is the mode that you can make yourself with the included smartphone app, and we're going to make a separate video on that, so make sure you subscribe to our channel to see when that comes out. BeatBuddy mode is the mode that comes right out of the box with the MIDI Maestro that works with the BeatBuddy to control that. We made a video about that, and we'll include the link in the description below so you can check that out. And Aeros mode comes right out of the box to work with the Aeros and give you a whole bunch of new capabilities. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. To choose it, you just press the button, and now you see all these new commands that work with the Aeros. The first thing you'll see is save song in the upper left corner, and that's very useful so you don't have to bend down and press the little save icon on the touch screen. You could do it hands-free and save your song. The next thing you'll see is the songs list button, and this allows you to go through the list of songs that you have on your Aeros hands-free. You could scroll down with either the MIDI Maestro or with the buttons on the Aeros and choose a song just by pressing the open button right here, and you see it loads that song. Another very convenient thing with the Aeros mode on the MIDI Maestro is that you can just do a single button press, hands-free, to start a new song instead of having to use the touch screen. So I'm going to press new 2x2 song, and it immediately starts a brand new empty 2x2 song with the same settings as the last time I used a new 2x2 song. And now it could just start recording. So you could do everything hands-free while you're on stage. Now I'm going to demonstrate this with the BeatBuddy so you see the entire integrated system of our products, but you do not need to use the BeatBuddy with the Aeros. You can use it on your own, on the Aeros on its own with the MIDI Maestro. So I'm going to start the BeatBuddy to start recording and show you how it works. So check it out. So I've got my first track. Now I'll do a second track. Now let's say I messed up on that track and I want to undo it. Before, what I had to do was I had to hold down the button to undo or redo. A lot of people don't like that hold command because it's not instantaneous. It takes a little bit of time. So with the Aeros mode on the MIDI Maestro, you have it as a single tap. So I'll redo it on the Aeros. And if I want to undo it, I just tap it. And that's simple as that. And of course, I could redo it as well. And the same thing with the mute. Usually on the Aeros, if you want to mute a track, then you have to double tap it. And that mutes it. A lot of people don't like the double tap because they prefer everything to be a single tap when they're playing live. And that allows you to do that with this bottom button right here. And this button right here just stops it immediately. So you have that option to stop it immediately instead of having to wait until the end of the track, which the stop all button does. So that's the 2x2 mode. Gives you all commands as a single tap immediately available, hands-free. Next, we're going to show you how to use the 6x6 mode on the Aeros with the MIDI Maestro Aeros mode. So I'm going to exit the 2x2 commands by pressing this button, and I'm going to press a new 6x6 song, and it immediately loads a brand new blank 6x6 song on the Aeros. I'm going to record another little song using the BeatBuddy and the Aeros just to show you how all the functions work. On the BeatBuddy, I've got the Studio Legend drum kit, which sounds amazing. We're going to leave a link in the description below if you'd like to get it for your own BeatBuddy. So just like before, I'm going to start the BeatBuddy. It's going to trigger the recording on the Aeros, and then I'll show you the functions on the MIDI Maestro. So let's get it started. So we've got our first track. I'm going to change the sound on the synthesizer just so we have another sound palette. Now that's a little bit loud, so I'm going to open up the mixer and adjust that level. Now we've got a nice little mix. Now I'm going to record a new part, and usually if I was just using the Aeros, I would have to first do select part and then press record, which is a two-step process. But with the MIDI Maestro, I could just press record new part and it will do it immediately. Gonna go back by pressing play part 1. Now you notice that the beat stayed in part 1 out of 3 on the BeatBuddy the entire time because I was pressing record new song part. But I could also record a new song part and change the beat at the same time just by selecting a new part. So I'm gonna press play part 3. It'll record a third part on the Aeros as well as changing the beat on the BeatBuddy. Gonna go back to the first part. Now, if I have the first track selected, whichever track I have selected, the undo button, the undo redo works on that as a single tap. So I don't have to do a hold on the Aeros. Now usually if I have a different track selected other than the last track in the part, I would have to cycle down the tracks to start recording a new track. But with the record new track button on the MIDI Maestro, I don't have to cycle down. I could just press that button and it will start it immediately. This button right here enters the mutes, and now I could immediately mute any track I want with just a single tap instead of doing a double tap on the Aeros. I could even do two at the same time, so check it out. So I just muted the first and the second tracks. I could bring the second one back in. And the mute function follows whatever setting is on the Aeros. So you could set the mute on the Aeros to either be at the end of the measure, the end of the track, or immediately. So the mute will follow that. And that's the 6x6 mode.